This is Optimal Relationships Daily, episode 1549. My son's team keeps on losing. Do I still make him play? By Adina Soclof of ParentingSimply.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ORD with me, your host and narrator, Greg Audino. This time, we're going to be sharing a parenting post with you, as we tend to do each Thursday and Friday. Today's comes courtesy of Adina Soclof, who we love reading from. And it's actually a Q&A segment from her site in which she answers a question sent in by one of her concerned parent readers. Love that. So let's jump in and see what she's got for us as we start optimizing your life. My son's team keeps on losing. Do I still make him play? By Adina Soclof of ParentingSimply.com. Dear Adina, do you have any suggestions handling disappointment for kids? My son gets upset when he's on a team that loses most of their games. Basketball teams were just posted last night, and he's already complaining. There are no good players on my team. We're going to have a lousy season. Thanks so much for your question. It is timely because my son just had his baseball tryouts last week, and I'm sure I will hear some grousing from him as well. I always try to tell my kids what I learned from my head counselor, Eudice, in camp. Quote, "It's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game." End quote. They usually roll their eyes at me and scoff. Kids take their sport seriously. I know that it's especially important to my boys that they have a good team and that their team plays well. But that is not always going to happen. My son was once on a team that for 2 years in a row was undefeated. He was thrilled. I had remarked to another mother whose son was on my son's team about how happy my son was. She agreed, but she said, "I'm happy for my son too, but really, I know this sounds crazy, but I would like to see him lose a few games. They learn so much about life from losing." She was right. Losing is not necessarily a bad thing. It's a good thing to remember when we watch our kids play sports. It can help keep things in perspective. With that in mind, what we also need to remember is that we do not have to fix the problem at hand. That's not our job. We can listen to our kids' complaints without getting emotionally involved. I've learned in my 20 years of marriage, and after reading Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, that whenever I complained to my husband about anything, he would try to fix it. Well, why don't you just call her and tell her you don't want to volunteer for this project? Well, why don't you just cancel your appointment and make it for next week when you're less busy? I found it so annoying. I just wanted to grumble a bit and have him listen. Maybe make some more sympathetic noises and perhaps some empathy. That could be annoying. Oh, I know. That's not your favorite thing to do. That's all I needed, really. Then I would be okay. I would figure it out myself. It sounds too easy, but here too, all your son needs is a listening ear, or some sympathetic noises, and empathy. It's okay for him to be upset about his team. It's all part of playing the game. When we try to fix life for our kids, or we try to shoo away all of their feelings, they get upset with us instead of the situation that they found themselves in. They lose sight of their problem and the fact that they're capable of solving their own problems and cope with their disappointment. To help him manage his frustrations after a lost game, he just needs to hear, "It can be frustrating to work so hard during practice and then lose the game. You dribbled the ball down the court. You passed to your teammates. You defended your position. You did what you could to win the game. And after all that, it can be disappointing to lose." When he complains about his upcoming season, you can do more of the same. You seem to be sad about your upcoming season. You wish that you had a better team this year. You were hoping that you would have a stronger presence on your Little League team this year. You're wondering how you're all going to work together to be a success this season. And you can also gently move him towards thinking about some solutions to his problems. You're probably reviewing in your mind the strengths and weaknesses of each of your teammates and wondering how the coach can make it work. You might be wondering if your coach would want you to work with some of the weaker kids on their throwing and catching. In another article I wrote, I mentioned that I had a meeting with the director of a prestigious preschool. We were discussing the content of the parenting workshops I would be presenting, and I asked her, "What is the most important problem your parents have with the kids?" And she said, "It's not so much that they have a problem with their kids, it's that they want a quick fix. They don't know how to just leave their kids alone and let them be sad when they're sad, and that their job is not to make their kids happy all the time. They need to stop micromanaging their kids' feelings. This advice applies here as well. So, as we move into spring and baseball season, let's all support our kids with some listening and some empathy. And remember that what you just said is totally true. It's not whether you win or lose. It's how you play the game. You just listened to the post titled, "My Son's Team Keeps on Losing. Do I Still Make Him Play?" by Adina Soclof of ParentingSimply.com. And thanks so much to Adina for providing some of her terrific parenting insight, as always. I do think this is a great article if you have young kids, but it does become a little bit more layered of a discussion as your kids age and have more developed opinions, doesn't it? Maybe you find that your child has other interests, especially if they come off as ambivalent about the sport or activity at hand when things are going really well for them, not just when they're losing. Or maybe their friends are no longer involved, and that was a big part of the appeal for them, even if they didn't know it at first. So, while I really love and am in total agreement with some of the lessons Adina spoke about here today, don't be afraid to dig deeper and see if there's something beyond the losing that prevents your kids from being excited about whatever sport or activities they're taking part in. They might even use losing as an excuse or a front that they think will convince you to get them out of it, if they're afraid to speak about what's really on their minds. So just a gentle reminder to always look a layer deeper if possible. And that's going to do it for today, friends. I really hope that you enjoyed this article, and if you did, be sure to come on back tomorrow for another one. There's going to be another parenting episode, as usual on Fridays. That's where your optimal life awaits.